Christina from the Playsium, and this is going to take the place of our normal monthly free Mondays. We're, of course, being proactive in our health. So we're going to get started and talk about our art projects and how we can make art at home with what's being supplied to us in our bags that you're going to be picking up today. So this is the piece that we're actually painting or working on, talking about. And then you're going to be getting an 8x10 canvas on Masonite. You'll be getting a butterfly sticker that you can attach to your canvas so that it makes that butterfly shape there. You'll be getting 2 brushes, and then you'll be getting primary colors of paint, so red, yellow, blue, and then white. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about color a little bit, and it's always a good idea to show your kids in picture how color works, because it just helps with their mind. There's more than one way to learn, and this is a really fun way for them to learn. So we're going to talk about mouse paint. This is one of my favorite books that we use here at the Playsium. And once there were 3 white mice on a white piece of paper. The cat couldn't find them. One day while the cat was asleep, the mice saw 3 jars of paint. 1 red one, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. They thought it was the mouse paint. They climbed right in. Then 1 was red, 1 was white, or 1 was yellow, and 1 was blue. They dipped puddles of paint under the paper, and the puddles looked like them, looked like fun. The red mouse stepped in a yellow puddle and did a little dance. His red feet stirred the red and yellow until it made orange. Look, he cried. Red feet in a yellow puddle make orange. The yellow mouse hopped into the blue puddle, and his feet mixed and stirred and stirred and mixed until... Look down, said the red mouse and the blue mouse. The yellow feet in the blue puddle make green. Then the blue mouse jumped into the red puddle, and he splashed and mixed and danced until... Purple, they shouted. Blue feet in a red puddle make purple. But the paint on their fur got sticky and stiff, and so they washed themselves down to a nice soft white and painted paper instead. They painted 1 part red and 1 part yellow, 1 part blue, and they mixed red and yellow to paint an orange part. Yellow and blue paint for a green part, and blue and red paint for a purple part. But they left some white because of the cat. So that's how we talked about colors. And essentially it's about blending and mixing colors to make a specific color in the color wheel. The 3 primaries are red, yellow, and blue. When you combine those primary colors, you get a secondary color. So red and yellow make orange. Blue and yellow make green. And red and blue make purple. Other colors in between would be called tertiaries. And they create a variety of different colors within those color ranges around the color wheel. And there's more to it, but that's a basic. So what we're going to start next is we're going to start with our painting. And we have our butterfly, and it's in 2 pieces, so you can just, you want to peel it off, kind of pull it back at an angle so it gets the other all those little pieces off there, and then pick it off. Like this one has a little piece still stuck inside of it there. And I'll just pop that out. You don't want those because that's what's going to create the butterfly spots. And you can choose to do a full flower, or you can choose to do half of a butterfly, and where you're using it like this. I'm gonna make it pretty much the same as the other one. You want to make sure that's good and adhered. What we're actually doing is called resistance. And what's happening is the sticker is causing or a mask, is causing the paint to resist that specific area. So I'm gonna butt these up close to each other, right on top of each other. So there's no space in between, because otherwise they will have paint in that split, right? So you can see that's right up close. And I still do have one of those pieces in there. You can pick it out. I have a couple of them actually, but I'm not gonna worry about it. And I'm gonna open up my paint here. And we also are including white. So when you add white to blue, you're gonna get a light blue. When you add white to yellow, you're gonna get pale yellow. And when you add white to red, you're gonna get pink. Now those other colors in between, you're gonna have purple, so you're gonna get like a lavender or a light purple, pastel. And light green when you're adding blue, yellow, and white. If you're looking for your child's project to be opaque so that there's full coverage or really good coverage, it might be a little more difficult with this kind of paint, but multiple layers will help with that opacity. And I'm going to start with my red flower. And you can draw for your child if you want to onto the canvas with a pencil. I'm just going to use a brush really quick, but you can use a pencil and use that small brush that came with your packet. And I'm going to make a 5-petaled flower. So I'm just going to divide it like you would think into a piece of pie. So one there, one here, almost like a star, right? And then you're going to just connect this with a wavy line. And you can go right over the butterfly when you paint that in. And I'll take the red and I will pick up the paint. I'm going to paint right over my butterfly. You do want to make sure it's nice and good and fully in there, unattached. And I'm just going to quickly follow those lines that I created. And just remember that these are guidelines that you've created with your pencil for your child. It does not have to be perfect. And it's really about the art of creating with your child, not necessarily the art for the art's sake. And if they lose interest, know that that's okay. Children typically have a very short attention span. And so it's fluid, so they can always come back to it later. It doesn't have to always be done in one quick setting. They may be able to, and this is always a good thing to do, is because it does take time for the paint to dry. So probably would be a good idea for them to sit down for a few minutes, paint for a while, and then let them get up and move around and move away from it while it's drying. That way it prevents over painting. So once that's on there, I am going to rinse my brush really well, and normally I would have a paper towel that I could dry my brush on, but I'm going to dry it on my apron instead. Take my brush, I'm going to fill it with blue, and you can talk to your kids about how to use brushes if you want to. I always keep the paint from about here forward. What happens is the paint gets up into here and it causes the brush to split like this. If their brush is split like this, so this way, that means there's not enough water here at the base, but typically with kids, you're gonna have more than enough water. And so I'm gonna follow the outline around the outside of this flower with the flat of my brush. Or you can use one of those smaller brushes. Everybody's dexterity is different. Mine is a little on the more developed side because I paint more frequently. And it's okay for your child to pick things up and turn it over, or even if they hold it to themselves, because they're actually, if you're bracing it against your body, you're actually getting a better grip on things. And this is our fun art wall here today. And Stacy asked me to talk to you also about if you weren't one of the 75 parents who they got an art kit, creating at home is just simple, is just encouraging them with paint and brushes just to sit down, or crayons, or chalk on the sidewalk. There's been some amazing stuff out there on Pinterest and Facebook where people are taping off things and then letting kids either paint on windows and then pulling the tape off. That creates that same kind of resist. You can do it on your backyard fence. I've seen it done on cement, and it's super cool and it's fun and it gives them time to engage. And when you peel it off, then it looks like a big, beautiful framed piece of artwork. I do this actually in my studio with my kids in my summer camps. And I'm working in a big X shape, so if they're, not doing these like nice long fill-in, that's fine. Again, always encourage your children and let them sort of do things on their own. You can always go back and give them a little bit of help, but you do really want to give them a chance to create on their own, because we always have to remember as parents that this is their artwork, not our artwork, and what we perceive as what should be perfect is not necessarily what the message we want to send. So I've got my blue all the way around, I've got my red in there, and I'm gonna do a little mixing. So I have some red on my lid here, and I have some blue here on my brush already, but I'm gonna mix in on my lid. And we talked about colors blending together, and red and blue make purple, right? So I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. I got my nice purple there. I don't know if you can see it because it's a little different from close to my blue smock there. And I'm gonna take some blue and I'm gonna just mark it, or some purple there, and put it along the edges, just to give it some visual interest so that it's not all one color. And that's gonna give us our red a little bit more time to dry too. It's still a little damp. I'm gonna rinse my brush. I'm not one of those who feels you have to wash your brush with every color. Change your water with every color. But some people like to just kind of mamsy-pamsy their little brushes in the water, and you really want to take it and give it a good twist to get it clean, and it comes out pretty well. Use the bottom of the container to help clean that brush. So you can still see a little bit on there, and just give a little more. And if I had a paper towel here with me, I would have just wiped it off and that would have taken care of it. But the brush is clean. And you do want to make sure, or encourage your child to wipe their brush off on the paper towel every single time. That way you're not having running down the canvas because it's too wet. I'm actually going to switch to, this is an angle brush, which isn't included in it, but it is a very helpful tool. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some yellow. And I actually have some yellow on my lid here. I'm going to get this brush a bit damp and take some of that red and I'm gonna mix that on there, and like we talked about earlier, red and yellow make orange, and since this is sort of a poppy, we're gonna make some orange. Mix that up good in that lid. And I'm gonna add some orange colored highlights. It still looks pretty red, but it's actually orange into our flower. So I'm gonna come around the edge here and just add some orange. It doesn't have to be anywhere special. You do want to be careful of colors that are complementary to each other. And the kids aren't gonna know this, so it's not a big deal. But colors that are across from the color wheel from each other. And I usually break those down in terms of summer, winter, Christmas time, and then again, fall time. So red and green is a complementary color, and they produce brown when put together. Blue and orange when put together, I typically think those are summer colors. So you see a lot of, in the summertime, a lot of corals and blues and turquoises. So those are also a complementary color. When mixed together, they create brown. And then orange and yellow, when they are together, purple and yellow, when they're put together, also are complementary, and they make brown as well. So that yellow gives just a little extra, orange gives a little extra density to that. And I'm gonna rinse my brush, and I'm gonna take that small brush that was included in your packet. Again, dry it off. And I'm gonna use this to actually sort of outline a bit to give some highlights to my paint. And normally I would let it dry in between, but we're kind of doing this on the quick, but it's fine, it's not gonna hurt anything. So I'm gonna go in and just kind of lightly outline. And create those petals. And if you don't want to do this, you do not have to do this. This is just fun. And again, you're just encouraging your child to paint. And watercolor is a great way for them to express themselves. Acrylic is kind of not forgiving on your carpet and your furniture and their clothes, but certainly chalk is. A lot of the water washable paints are, so they're a good idea to kind of think about using. I'm gonna put a stem in here, and so I'm gonna turn mine sort of this way here, and I'm gonna still use this brush. And if you recall from our story, yellow and blue make green. So I have one lid that happens to have not much in it, so I'm gonna pick up some yellow, put it on there, and I'm gonna pick up some blue, and I'm gonna mix those two together. And if it becomes more blue dominant, add a little yellow. If it's more yellow dominant, add a little more blue. So there's our green. And if you have time, you want to, you can always put a white down as a base, because a lot of this is really transparent and see-through, so you probably could, again, take a break and let them come back to it. But this is sort of dry here, so I'm gonna come in, maybe even I'm gonna add some white, so you can see that pastel change. And we could talk about highlights too, the way the sun falls. So the sun, the way I always have it is coming this way, this direction, coming down. So your highlights are gonna come across here, and so the white is gonna be here, and then your shadow is gonna be on the other side. And your shadow, typically, I like to use purple, so that would be the red and the blue. But I'm just gonna pop in a little bit more blue on the other side of that, and that will kind of help make that a bit darker, hopefully. So there's our stem. If you wanted to, you could encourage them to put some grass in there or another flower. That's entirely up to you how you handle that situation. That's your start, right? And then maybe I'm gonna put a leaf in there as well. And since my little clip is right here, I'm gonna probably go off to this side. I'll draw my stem there for my leaf. And I'm gonna use a little bit of a bigger brush to fill in my I'm gonna mix some more green up. And I'm gonna add a bit of white as well to help with opacity, so it's not so see-through. And if you look at a leaf, it's sort of like a triangle shape. It's just rounded on the edges. So just talk about the shapes with your kids too when you do art, and what shape helps define or make an object. Look for those shapes inside, and then just fill that in. We'll let that dry, and I'll put some white in there in a few minutes. For right now, I'm going to pick off my butterfly if I can. And while it's not perfect, it does leave that shape of the butterfly. You would want to let it dry if you were concerned about not having a pink butterfly, which I think would be fun at this point. So I'm going to pick up my other brush over here, and I'm going to go in and maybe clean up a few of these spots in here. And this brush is probably a little bit big for this, but it kind of fills in, blends it out a little bit. We can also, if you mix pretty much all of the colors together, then you would have, you would get brown or black. It'll mix a lot of those colors together, and we could use that as the body. I already have some purple there, and I have some green here, and I'm gonna just pick up what's on my brush. I'm gonna leave the white on there. And just, you can let your kids mix and experiment and see what happens. I get sort of a gray, grossy color, because there's, of course, red in with my green, right? And I'm going to use that as the head and the body of my butterfly. And you could also use that as the line that you would use to divide or outline your butterfly and the antennae, right? I like to do a cute little sort of heart shape, but that is entirely up to you what shape you use to make your butterfly antenna. And then I'm going to go in and kind of sort of outline this a bit. Now But this could be a project that you guys share, or one you let your child do on their own. And it's always a great memory, make sure to put their name on the back of it. I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow here. And then we talked about highlight in the stem. I'm gonna rinse off my brush here. Wipe it off. And put a few quick, you could even add some yellow into your leaves as well. And that's your butterfly with your kids. Thank you and have a great day.